Lumbar spine.
Lumbar.
Patient prep. Patient needs to change into to a gown. Everything off. Underwear can stay on as long as there's not any metal. Jewelry-wise, the only issue would be belly button ring would need to come off. Okay. I'm locked in transverse, 40 inches to the bucky. I'm going to use a 14 by 17 lengthwise. I'm going to collimate the full 17 inches, and guess how wide? 8 inches wide, yes. So we're going to do that. If you place your blocker at the bottom like we've done before, you can use that right marker over the inside edge. On the right side. Want to be sure that your patient is straight. You don't want them cattywampus on the table. Yes.
I love that word.
Yeah, that's Miss Etz's word. I never even knew that word before. I learned that here. Not cattywampus. And it's a real word. It's like in the dictionary. Okay, I'm going to, because we had the full 17 inches, I'm going to center at the level of the crest and then to the mid-sagittal plane. If you were collimating down to maybe 14 inches of length, then you'd want to center a couple finger widths above the crest. But you can center at the crest with that full 17, and that way we should get the SI joints as well.
I have a question, just so I know. If the patient is shorter, do you center differently, at like a different length?
I would stay at the crest either way. Okay. If you're using that full 17, I would stay at the crest.
Okay.
Like I said, now if you decide to collimate because you think you want to top to bottom and you get about 14 or something, then you might want to come a little above the crest.
Okay.
If you decide to collimate. All right. Going to now, after I get this centered up, I'm going to ask my patient to bend her knees. We want the knees bent up. You don't have to go big flexion. What happens is, and you're not going to be able to see this on the video, but if she bends her knees way up, then the light comes down onto her thighs and it looks really funky. So that's why I would do this last, just have them bend their knees. But you need to bend their knees.
Okay.
Bend their knees up. If you were using a 45-degree sponge to take the pressure off their back, you could just use that and that would be okay. But you want the knees bent to reduce that lordotic curvature of their spine, okay? But it doesn't have to be a real tight one, and you probably don't want it to be a really tight, big bend to the knees. Then I would have her hold her breath. Phase of respiration isn't going to matter. You can say take in a breath and hold it. It doesn't really matter. I would be consistent. If you say just hold your breath, just remember that when you really have a patient, you need to wait and make sure they actually stop breathing before you make your exposure. Okay. The only other thing I say is watch where your patient's hands are all during this exam, particularly the AP, because if people have back pain, that's when they have that big tendency to put that hand up underneath them to relieve some of that pressure. So be sure you can always account for where their hands are. All right, and that's our AP. You can relax your legs down. Okay. Now from the AP, we're going to do the obliques. We want you to do these obliques in the order of which I'm going to show you. So we're going to do RPO, then we're going to go LPO, left lateral, spot. That way you're not rolling the patient back and forth in many different ways and that kind of thing, just so it's easier on the patient. Okay, I'm going to leave my right marker because this is going to stay her right side for the obliques, so that's going to be fine. I'm going to ask her to bend her left knee and to bring her left arm across her body. You want to make sure your patient log rolls, okay, so that hip and shoulder stay in alignment. We're still going to stay centered at the crest, but now we want to find the ASIS and come about 2 inches medial to the ASIS. And there's a couple of things you can check with that, okay? I'm going to check my rotation first. And y'all will be able to see the rotation from the other side when I roll it the other way. But you want to see this at 45, and like I said, look for this shoulder and hip to be in alignment, all right? So this arm needs to come over. Be sure the elbow stays up, because some people will bring their arm across but leave their elbow down. It can end up in your light field. So just be sure that it stays up. You're looking for 45 here. Like I said, ASIS, about 2 inches in. You can put your hand underneath and see if you feel like you're centered to the spine. Look for that nipple line, about halfway between lateral border and mid-sagittal plane. 2 or 3 different ways you can double check that to make sure you're where you want to be.
So this leg stays straight and that one's bent?
Correct, because they're just rolling up.
Okay.
I mean, you could straighten this one back out. Sometimes you do straighten it out because it looks funky through here, just to make sure the hip's not rolled up too much. But that's easier for the patient to hold that position. And so this will be the RPO, which would demonstrate what?
Right.
The right zygapophyseal. Okay. And then she would hold her breath again. Now I'm going to get her to just reverse her position.
Thought she was in.
Okay. That's the problem when you got a real sheet, it's so big. And so again, I'm going to look for hip and shoulder to be in alignment. I'm going to roll you back just to here. I want 45 through here. You really do have to watch. Sometimes the hip will go up higher than you want it to. You're good. Crest, 2 inches in from the ASIS. Okay, and now I'm at LPO. And this would show my left zygapophyseal. And she would hold her breath.
Would you still leave the right marker or would you put the...
I'm going to leave the right marker because this is still her right side. And she's just going up towards the left.
Okay.
I think that's still okay. Now from here, I'm going to ask her to roll all the way up on her left side. That's just that comfort sponge I've given her. Okay. I'm going to ask her to roll up on her right side. Yeah, you're covered. You're okay. Just caught up between your legs a little bit. Knees on top of each other, arms up towards her head like she's asleep. Now I am going to change to my left marker though because this is a left lateral. And just so I have good reference for my marker, I'm going to turn this around. You don't have to do that, but it just makes it easier to know where to put your marker. But we do want to mark left towards the anterior surface. Now, same thing here as with the others. I want to make sure hip and shoulder stay in alignment, that there's no rotation through the spine. If you used a sponge for sag for the others, you'll use a sag sponge here. So the same principles apply, okay? Just make sure that she's in the right position. Going to center at the crest and to the mid-coronal plane, or mid-axillary line, whichever you want to call it. Either one is fine. But somebody mentioned that if you have a very large patient and the light field gets very small, then if you look for their armpit, that mid-axillary line is easier to find. Again, I'm going to see light kind of skimming off the back, but I shouldn't see it on the table. I am going to use my lead masking behind my patient, but not in contact or underneath. So what happens if I get my lead in there? What's going to happen to my exposure factors if I use the AEC?
They're going to go way up.
Yes, it'll overexpose. It'll overexpose. Okay, so now I just have her hold her breath again. And that'll be our letter.
So you say 17/8 for all of these? So
All
far?
of these. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what should you see on the lateral?
Intervertebral foramen.
Yes, intervertebral foramina. Okay, now I ask my patient just to stay up on her side.
This
10
one?
by 12, yeah. I'll swap you. Going to use the 10 by 12 lengthwise. Marker placement here. I'm going to collimate to a 7 by 7 inch field. Okay, so I'm going to collimate down about 7 by 7. Okay, I have 10 inches across, so that's about 1.5 inches in on either side. So if I go in about 2 inches, and this is 12, so if I cut that, that's 5, that's 2.5. I can go down about 3. It's a guesstimate here on placing your marker. What I'm going to suggest you do really when you go to clinic is one time do this. Not every time you get ready to do this. And I would do this like before you really do a lumbar spine. I can't really do it here, but if you place your cassette in here so that it's centered in the bucky and just pull the bucky out, then pull your tube across. And if you're collimated to whatever size you're going to use all the time, 7 by 7, 6 by 6, 8 by 8, whatever you decide your collimation is going to be that you use all the time. Center that collimation up, place your markers as the anterior surface, and then measure with your hands. You take these with you everywhere you go. And once you've done that one time, then you'll know, I'm going to go down 4, I'm going to go in 5, or whatever. And you can do that even with that 8-inch wide. You could pull it over one time 8-inch wide because you don't have a blocker on those cassettes. And know where that is and see how far in is that from your hand. And so you'll know how far in to go with the right one and how far in to go with the left one. Use your hand. Like I said, they'll probably look at you like you're crazy, but if you just do it one time, the key is you then have to be consistent with your collimation. But then you can look like you're so good because you never flip it off because you're so good. But use your hands. Okay, so I've collimated. I'm going to put a 5-degree caudal angle on. Let me align my butt. Okay, I'm going to use this lead masking behind here again. Now, all this hand business that people do, if you want to do that hand business, go right ahead. I don't really know. And if you do it, I bet you end up centered the same place I'm going to show you. Crest, find crest and ASIS, center halfway in between and about an inch posterior to the mid-coronal plane. I end up, when I use this collimation, because of how I'm centered at the crest, and then when I collimate down an angle, I end up centered almost exactly where I want to be anyway. I find ASIS and crest, and I want to be halfway in between. And then be sure your patient holds their breath again. And that's it. So we will have anatomy, but we will not shoot an image. I don't think we're going to have time because that Tuesday lab, that middle lab has 5 people.